Hey everybody, welcome back to One Seed, One World. So today I'm doing a follow-up video to the pruning potato blossom video that I did back in June. First, let me say I had no idea that this was such a hotly debated topic in the gardening world. That video, within that first month, got like 32,000 views, which is pretty huge for me for a first month. And tons of comments. Some people responded and said, yep, been doing that for years, works great. Other people said, oh, I'd never heard of that before, I'm gonna try doing it. Had a couple that said that they had tried it once and they had an awful crop and they'll never do it again. And then there were some that said, oh, this is just theory, there's no real science behind this. And then others had other options, like the one viewer commented about the stepping down, where they, after the blossoms come on, they step on their vines, the way I understood it, to kind of crush them down and then let them kind of die out. And that's supposed to work better. I guess it's an old Irish way of doing it, which is not something that I had heard of or tried before. I had heard of vine killing before, that some of the big potato producers do in a way to kind of kill off the vines and let the potatoes cure down in the ground. So there's all these different responses. So what I decided to do this year was do a mini test. I have this little patch of ground here, not all of it's on camera I don't think, but of some russet potatoes. Now the vines have all died off now. These are ready to be harvested. And what I ended up doing was trimming the blossoms on this little short row, and then the ones on that side over there, I did not trim the blossoms. And so those had full blossoms throughout the summer. They would slowly dropped off. I didn't get any potato berries this year. The conditions weren't right, but they did have blossoms. So now, the idea behind trimming the blossoms of the potatoes is so that the plants can put their energy into forming bigger and better harvests of potatoes, instead of putting their energy into forming the blossoms and forming berries. Now, since I didn't get any berries this year, we might not notice a difference, because to me at least, it would seem that if your potato plants do start forming berries, that they would then be putting more energy into forming those berries in the seeds and not putting as much in the ground. Whereas if they don't get berries, then maybe it wouldn't take as much energy just to do the blossoms. That's just my thought process. Now, one of our viewers did thankfully share some information. I had read some studies before I did my initial video, which was part of what my video was based on, but it's not just theory. There have been scientific studies, and one of our viewers did share some information on some studies that he had found where they did a controlled environment, and the potato plants that they trimmed the blossoms on had higher yields and bigger potatoes than ones where they left the blossoms on. So there are some studies in controlled situations that did support this theory, right? Now, is that always going to work for you in your garden? No, because you don't have a controlled environment. You're going to have different environments for where you live, different weather every season. Something that might work one season might not work as well the next season, depending on watering, rain, temperatures, all those kinds of things. This is just an idea to try to help the plant along and give it a little bit extra, but it might not always work. So with my test, we're gonna see. Again, this is not complete scientific experiment, but trimmed one side, did not trim the other. They're all in the same dirt, got all the same mulching, had the same temperatures, same weather, they all experienced the same things. So we'll see if the yield on this side is better than the yield on that side. So I'm gonna start harvesting some of this stuff. I did kind of hill them up this year with a lot of mulch, and I brought a little shovel out. I might have to go get a bigger shovel, because I don't know if this little hand spade is going to be enough to help me out with what I want to do here. But just to get started, I'm gonna start pulling some of this mulch away and get down into some of these dead plants. So we are starting out with the side of the russets that were trimmed. I got two little teeny ones up here at the top. And then I'm gonna weigh them, the overall yield. I pre-weighed this bucket. It weighs 1.7 pounds. So we're gonna harvest into this bucket. We'll weigh one side first, then we'll go to the other side and get those. So let me start harvesting here and see what our results are. Wow. Here's a weird looking potato, but it's good size, but it's got an extra little thing on the side there, see that? But we're gonna see what kind of potatoes we got in here. Okay, so row one is done. It was a little dismal. One thing, well, let's say two things. One, I did only plant a few of these. I'm just doing this on a few russet plants on each side. So there wouldn't have been a massive crop anyway. I did get some good sized ones. So this is from the ones that I did prune the blossoms off of. But there's also a lot of little ones in there too. But one thing that I did incorrectly, where when I did my hilling, I used all mulch, shredded natural mulch, and I piled it up really high. What I found is I think that held too much moisture in the ground. It would have been better to do it with straw or dirt because that moisture really holds the moisture in, or that mulch really holds the moisture in. So what that means is I had some potatoes already like rotting in there, and I think it kind of stifled some of the production. So next year I will do dirt or straw and not do this heavy shredded mulch that holds all that moisture in for so long. I probably lost 4 or 5 really big, nice sized potatoes that were already starting to rot and stink. I went to grab one, my thumb went right into it, and the smell that came out was just god awful. It was, if you've ever smelled rotting potatoes, especially when you're sticking your hands into them, it's not a good time. So, but in the meantime, we will weigh this little crop that I got, and we'll compare it to the other row still. But I think that I also did some things this year that will affect no matter what the outcome of this is. So here we have our little bucket of taters, and I'll put this up here on my hanging scale. Like I said, this scale, this bucket weighs 1.7 pounds, so I need to subtract that off of the overall total. If I can get it on there. There we go. .6. So that's going to be what, 7.9 pounds instead of potatoes from the ones that I did prune the blossoms off of. And then that's them in there. Okay, so next one has been done. We're gonna check the weight and see where we're at, and then I'll go over a couple of final things. $11.2 minus 1.7, 10.2. What's that, 9.5. Okay, so the ones where I did not prune the blossoms ended up having a little bit more yield in pounds. Here's why. My biggest potato, that monster, came out of the side that didn't have, that did not have the blossoms trimmed. So that one potato, I think, made it win the contest, which for the whole idea of pruning the blossoms might put that into question for your home gardening. Again, every year can be different. And I'm gonna try this again next year without doing the kind of mulching I did, because I lost from the one side. I had 5 or 6 good sized rotten potatoes that had they been good, I would have gotten more yield. So I only think I had 3 rotten ones on the non-pruned side, which were smaller, and I had 4 or 5 rotten ones from the prune side, which were much bigger. So I think that was probably the big, between that one big potato and the difference. But really, what was that, a difference of about a pound or so? So they stayed kind of even in my current environment for this year, for this small test for just a few plants on each side. Actually, 3 or 4 plants, I think, on each side is what I had. So, and a lot of the potatoes were, you know, they're smaller, more like new potatoes. But then I also got, you know, oddball ones like that, the big monster, and other ones that are, you know, your normal baking russet potato kind of size, and then a lot of little ones too. So I have a whole mix in there. So there was not a huge difference this year. The non-prune side did edge out the prune side by about a pound or so, but not a whole lot of difference for the current year. So this will take some more tests to see how it goes in the future with trying different mulching and whatnot. And again, also remember that when they did the scientific test to come up with this idea for pruning your blossoms, that it was done in a controlled environment, and your garden is never going to be a controlled environment. So it may change from year to year. The whole idea though is to give the plant more energy to put in the potatoes instead of putting above. But there can be different methods that you use. You're going to have different weather, different environments that are all going to affect that as well. So I will say I stand corrected on it making a massive difference for this year, but I'm going to try again and see how it, you know, I'll do future videos in future years, and we'll see if mulching differently or weather different patterns are different next year, and we'll see if it makes a difference as well with the pruning versus non-pruning. So I hope all that information was helpful. I know I'm kind of rambling on here a bit, but I wanted to give you guys a follow-up because I had a lot of responses to this, the original video, a lot of views, and so I wanted to just show you my little mini test on how it came out. And I know others have had different experiences with mini tests that they've had, either one way or the other. So results are inconclusive at this time. But whatever's going on in your neck of the woods, I hope it's working out fantastic for you and that you are having a great day. Please put some comments down below. Let me know if you tried this year and how your results came out, or what your experiences have been in the past. I'll also put a link down below for the original video if you want to check that one out. But I appreciate that you're hanging out with me here again today, and we will see you again soon. Namaste.